is. Translations and purports by His Divine Grace Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Srila Prabhupada mentions in the introduction that an American lady asked him to recommend, this was in the mid-60s, Srila Prabhupada in New York. He said an American lady, in the recording of this introduction to Gita Upanishad, which later became the introduction, but he originally recorded, I think it's the first recorded lecture we have of Srila Prabhupada. And it's long, it's about 3 hours. But there he says, an American lady, Mrs. Charlotte LeBlanc, and he gives her name. In the introduction here, her name's not given. But an American lady, she asked me to recommend a translation of Gita. And Prabhupada said, as far as you can tell, all of the English translations were presenting some motivated interpretation. The author was trying to bring out their own ideas and using Krishna's words to bring them out. It's a very big type of cheating. Using Krishna's words to establish their own philosophy is totally bogus. If people want to establish their own philosophies, they should write their own books, not try and borrow Krishna's authority. So therefore, Srila Prabhupada has presented this Bhagavat Gita as it is. There is no mundane, materially motivated idea behind the presentation of this. It's simply bringing out what is Krishna trying to say. What is the message that Krishna is giving in the Bhagavad Gita? And why could no one else present it prior to Prabhupada? Because it's only understood by devotees. By devotees who are hearing this transcendental knowledge coming in disciplic succession. So Srila Prabhupada received from his Guru Maharaj, and he gave it as he had heard it, without addition, without subtraction, without change, and according to his very deep and profound realization. So it's potent. And this is the process of receiving and of giving transcendental knowledge. That it's received from the authorized person and it's given without any change. As Arjuna, he set the example in the Bhagavad Gita. He says to Krishna, Sarvam etad ritam manye. Everything you've said, I accept it as true. And Prabhupada makes the point, not that accept this part and don't accept that part. That
it's being recorded. You need a good background.
What about Prabhupada?
We're not close, Prabhupada, sorry.
Jai Shri Prabhupada. Prabhupada, under whose lotus feet we all sit. So no addition, no subtraction. Exactly what is received, that is given. With realization. But as Srila Prabhupada says in one of his purports in, it's either the first or second chapter of the Srimad Bhagavatam, that the speaker is not meant to distort or screw some new meaning out of the text in order to show their own learning, but it's simply a submissive presentation of what is received in parampara. So parampara is more than just a tradition. There's various traditions throughout the world. This tradition and that tradition. Every country's got their own traditions. Every man-made religious system has its own traditions. But parampara is something very unique because it's not just a tradition, but it's a tradition that begins with the Supreme Personality of Godhead Himself. So Krishna said this, Srila Prabhupada said this Bhagavad Gita is the most authorized Vedic text. Why? Because it's Krishna speaking about Himself. Not someone else speak, but Krishna Himself saying, this is who I am. These are my energies. This is my service. All of these things Krishna Himself is explaining. If we want to know about a person, we could hear about that person from others and know something about them. And according to how intimately connected the person we're hearing, we may know to more or less degrees about this person. But if a person tells us about himself or herself, then that's the best way to understand them properly. You know, people might tell you, oh, Antardwipa is this or that. And some of it might be positive, some of it might be negative. But if you ask me, oh, is this true about you? No, that's not true. Then you know. So Krishna says, this is who I am. This is what I do. This is my devotional service. These are my energies. So in this sense, it is the most authorized, Srila Prabhupada said, the most authorized of Vedic scriptures. Supreme Personality of Godhead giving knowledge of Himself. So this is one meaning of the word Krishna Katha. Krishna Katha has two meanings. One is words about Krishna, and the other, or discussions about Krishna, and the other is the discussions of Krishna. So this is Krishna Katha, Krishna speaking. So I believe we're up to the start of the 4th chapter. There's been some progressive study. I don't know when this began, probably some time ago. Decades. Pre-COVID. Okay, so it's pre-COVID. So now we've all been vaccinated against that knowledge and we've forgotten. Maybe. All right, 3rd chapter. What was the 3rd chapter entitled? Anyone remember? Karma Yoga. And how did it begin? Didn't Arjuna ask some question that he was a little bit confused? Because in the 2nd chapter, well, the 1st chapter sets the scene. They're on the battlefield. Arjuna's ready to fight. Then Krishna, just please take me between the armies so I can see who I have to battle with here in this great trial of arms. So Krishna smiles a little bit. Yeah, okay, let's go and have a look. He gets in the middle, and then Arjuna sees all his relatives. And he gets hit by this overwhelming feeling. I have to kill my swajana. Swajana means my own people, my family, my relatives, my loved ones, my dear ones. I have to kill them. And he became overwhelmed by Krishna's arrangement with this bodily concept of life. Understood, I don't want to do this. I don't want to kill them. And in this situation, couldn't work out whether he should fight or shouldn't fight. He should go to the forest. He should beg. He should just give up his weapons and let himself be killed by the enemy. He saw no auspicious path for himself due to the confusion that he was under. But because he's a devotee of Krishna, he surrendered to Krishna. Krishna, now I'm your disciple. You please instruct me. And then Krishna, okay. So in the 2nd chapter, he then gives an overview of all the contents of the Gita. So he mentions various things: working without attachment to results, transcendental knowledge, devotional service. And in the end, Arjuna still couldn't understand it properly, the end of the 2nd chapter. So at the start of the 3rd chapter, Arjuna says, does anyone remember the question he asks? You're equivocal. I'm confused. First of all, you recommend that knowledge is better, and then you tell me I should work. This is confusing. Which is it? Is it knowledge or is it work? Because we're conditioned for countless lifetimes with this duality of karma and jnana. Karma means I perform activities with myself in the center, and I do them to try and achieve my own happiness. That's karma. And whether it's my own happiness or the happiness of those that I'm related to or friendly with, or if one is even more broad-minded, it could be the whole society, community, nation, even the whole world and all the living entities in it. But if it doesn't focus on Krishna, it's still selfish. So by karma, with this habit of many lives, we're thinking action means I do something because I want to enjoy. Like Prabhupada says in the Gita, a person who's not hungry is not inclined to cook. People cook, I want something to eat. I might cook something. So it's karma. Jnana is, I don't want to enjoy in this world, so let me cultivate knowledge beyond this world. So because I don't want to enjoy, therefore I don't do any actions. But it's still self-centered. I don't want to enjoy, so I don't do any actions. So this is the duality of karma and jnana. But Krishna is trying to bring Arjuna to the point of do your action without desiring any benefit from it. Karma yoga. So that was explained in the last chapter. And there's a very interesting section therein when Arjuna asked Krishna, why do people perform sinful activities even if they don't want to? What impels them? And what did Krishna say? It is lust only, Arjuna. It sits in the mind, the senses, the intelligence. It burns like fire and it is never satiated. Lust means the desire to please myself. And it's a perverted reflection of love. The natural state of living entity in the spiritual world is to desire to please Krishna. And everything is seen in relation to how can I use this to satisfy the senses of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. That's the automatic inclination for everything. That's the platform of prema. The material it's perverted. It's still activities for sense pleasure, but instead of being for Krishna's senses, we try and make it for my senses. And therefore it has various reactions to it that we are all somewhat familiar with. We perform activities and we suffer karmic reactions. So this duality of karma and jnana. So in the chapter entitled Karma Yoga, there was Krishna speaking about the importance of performing activities, but not being attached to any result from those activities. Now he's going to bring it from the side of transcendental knowledge. This is chapter 4, transcendental knowledge. Many wonderful, the whole Gita is full of wonderful verses. There's so many fundamental points that come out in this chapter. So in the beginning, Krishna says, I instructed this imperishable science of yoga to the sun god, Vivasvan. And Vivasvan instructed it to Manu. That's Vaivasvata Manu, who's the current Manu, the father of mankind. And Manu in turn instructed it to Ikshvaku, his son. So these Manus, they live for a phenomenal amount of time according to our comprehension. We know that there's a cycle of 4 yugas. Do you know what the yugas are? What yuga are we in now? Kali Yuga, yes. And how long is it? 432,000 years. So it's a long time. Very long time. And what was the one before Kali? Dwapara. And it's twice as long as Kali. And before that was Treta, which is 3 times as long as Kali. And before that was Satyuga, the Golden Age, which is 4 times as long as Kali. So altogether the 4 make a cycle. It's like 4 seasons of the year, but it's much longer. The whole 4 together is 4,320,000 years. And that's a long time, right? But if you take 71 of those and put them all together, that's called a Manvantara. And that's how long Manu lives for. So he's the father of mankind. Phenomenal amount of time. So he was instructed hundreds of millions of years ago in Bhagavat Gita by Krishna himself. Okay, so Krishna says this. I instructed this science, the same science I'm speaking to you now, Arjuna. I instructed this to the sun god, Vivasvana, hundreds of millions of years ago. And this supreme science was thus received, passed down through the chain of disciplic succession. Such an important point. Evam parampara praptam. The disciplic succession means it begins from Krishna and it goes in an unbroken chain, delivering exactly the same knowledge. Just as there might be a beautiful, fruit, a mango tree, and near the top there's some soft, ripe, sweet mango, nice red color, but right at the top. So if it falls from the very top of a big tree down to the ground, it'll smash. And then you can't do anything with it. So someone climbs the tree, he picks it, he hands it to someone else, they hand it down, and pass down down to the bottom. Oh, we have a very nice mango. This is the chain of parampara. Comes from Krishna and is handed down from one person to the next so that the message doesn't change. And for as long as it doesn't change, the parampara is intact. Yes?
What's the difference between parampara and sampradaya?
No difference. No difference. Parampara means one above another, and it is the general description for this term of disciplic succession. Sampradaya means there's 4 sampradayas. These are the 4 paramparas that are coming from Krishna through his devotees. Okay. So Krishna says it was received in this chain of disciplic succession, and the saintly kings understood it in that way. Why the kings? It's not just the kings, also the brahmanas would understand. But it was important for the kings to also understand, because they have to run the society in such a way so that everyone could fulfill both their material and spiritual needs. If the kings or the leaders of society do not understand the importance of this, then a situation develops like we have in modern society, where there's no leadership in spiritual values. And because of that, the entire society gradually becomes morally and spiritually bankrupt. And consequently, everyone becomes unhappy, miserable. So it was important that the kings understood this. But, Krishna says, in course of time, the succession was broken. It wasn't being passed down in unadulterated form anymore. There was some change, some mixing. Someone brought in different ideas. The real message was lost. This is something we have to be on guard about. We are receiving this knowledge in disciplic succession. We have to ensure that ourselves, when we speak this knowledge, we don't change it. We don't speculate. We don't make things up. We don't present some different idea other than Krishna's ideas. That's our responsibility. And if we can do that, then the message, because it is unchanged, has the same potency as when Krishna personally spoke it himself. This is parampara. Even a young child, can present this message, and by doing it in an unadulterated fashion, it has the same potency as when Krishna spoke it. Because Krishna's Chit Shakti, his internal potency, is empowered in there. So an example is Srila Prabhupada had some of his followers in the early days had a young child, Saraswati. Maybe it wasn't Saraswati, but there was one child. Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Just see. If that's all you can understand, you present that and it's perfect preaching. So Krishna is saying that in the course of time, the succession was broken and the science as it is appears to be lost. Of course, it's never lost. It's an eternal science. Everyone in the spiritual world is always following it. It's never lost. But in this world, it appears to be lost. It's forgotten. And the science as it is, that's the important part. So when this happened, Krishna, he comes himself, or he sends a representative, or a son, or a devotee, or a servant to re-establish the science. So that's what Krishna is doing here, speaking to Arjuna. He says that very ancient science of the relationship with the Supreme is today told by me to you because you are my devotee, as well as my friend, and can therefore understand the transcendental mystery of this science. Bhagavat Gita, Srila Prabhupada said, is a treatise that's meant for devotees. No one else can understand it. It is only understandable by a devotee of Krishna. So therefore, Krishna spoke it to his devotee, Arjuna. And if we want to understand the Bhagavad Gita, we have to be like Arjuna. And Srila Prabhupada makes this point in the very introduction, that if you want to read Bhagavad Gita and get the benefit of Bhagavad Gita, then we have to at least theoretically accept, okay, Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And if we approach Bhagavad Gita, even with that just theoretical understanding, all right, I want to hear Bhagavad Gita, so let me at least, for the process of hearing, accept Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. If we approach Bhagavad Gita with that mentality, then it will be effective and we will understand. If we approach it with a different mentality, well, let's see what Krishna has to say. I'll judge his words and work out for myself whether they're right or not. If we approach with that mentality, we stay licking the outside of the jar of honey. We do not get the taste. So Arjuna heard this from Krishna. Krishna said, I spoke this hundreds of millions of years ago. And Arjuna said, well, wait a minute. Arjuna and Krishna were born, apparently, appeared very much around the same time. They're contemporaries, practically the same age. So Arjuna asked, Krishna, the sun god is very senior by birth, far older than you. The sun god Vivishvan is senior by birth to you. How am I to understand that in the beginning you instructed this science to him? How's that possible? He's hundreds of millions of years old. Krishna said, many births both you and I have passed. I can remember all of them, but you cannot, O subduer of the enemy. Krishna, one of his names is Achyuta. Achyuta means one who does not chuta. Chuta means falling down, degrading. Krishna is Achyuta. So he never changes his position. He never forgets. We change bodies one after another, transmigration. And with the change of body, we forget everything about the previous body. So you can be sure that hundreds of millions of years ago, we may not have been there when Krishna was explaining, but we were somewhere. But we've completely forgotten it. Arjuna was there when Krishna was explaining Bhagavad Gita to the sun god. But he couldn't remember. But Krishna can remember everything. He never changes his body. Ever. Krishna and Krishna's body, no difference. Krishna and Krishna's name, no difference. Form, pastimes, qualities, entourage, paraphernalia, abode, no difference. It's the absolute platform. So Krishna says, I can remember it. You can't. And then he explains, although I am unborn and my transcendental body never deteriorates, and although I am the Lord of all living entities, I still appear in every millennium in my original transcendental form. When Krishna comes, he doesn't take a form. He manifests his eternal transcendental form. This is his mercy. And then he speaks something about why he does that. Whenever and wherever there is a decline in religious practice, O descendant of Bharata, and a predominant rise of irreligion, at that time, I descend myself. No one forces Krishna. He does it himself. To deliver the pious and to annihilate the miscreants, as well as re-establish the principles of religion, I myself appear millennium after millennium. So Krishna, he comes in innumerable incarnations. Krishna is the source of all incarnations. Krishna's tu Bhagavan Swayam. All forms come from Krishna. And this Krishna is the original form. The original Supreme Personality of Godhead. And he himself appears once in every day of Brahma. So we said before how long the yugas are and the manvantaras, but a day of Brahma, that's even much longer. The daytime is, 4 billion years. Okay, and the nighttime is the same. So altogether more than 8.5 billion years, day and night. And then Krishna comes again. So this is his mercy, appearing in his original transcendental form. And now he says, one who knows the transcendental nature of my appearance and activities does not, upon leaving the body, take his birth again in this material world, but attains my eternal abode, O Arjuna. Janma karma chime divyam evang yo vesti tattvataha chaktvar deham punarjanma naeti mam eti sorjuna. If we understand the divyam, the transcendental nature of Krishna's appearance, janma, and activities, karma, in truth, as Krishna describes it, as his devotees describe it, just by understanding that, we leave this body, no more repeated birth and death. Krishna says, that person comes to me. Punarjanma naeti means there's no more rebirth. Mam eti. So he comes to me. Today on the Perth WhatsApp group, there was a posting that directly spoke to this verse. It's actually anyone who's on the Perth Devotees General group. Hands up if you receive those WhatsApp messages. Probably most. The very last post that came up, it's beautiful. Giriraj Maharaj said, he's recounting this pastime. As in other places, we will go into Srila Prabhupada's room early in the morning and sing the prayers to the spiritual master. So one morning after the prayers, Prabhupada gave a little talk and then asked, so he's asking the devotees who were there, why does Krishna come into the material world? What would you say? Why does Krishna come into the material world? Now, if you've read it already, don't answer. Why does Krishna come to the material world? This is what happens when you sit right in front of the speaker. You get the questions. To To meet his devotees. It's a pretty good answer. Pretty good answer. To meet his devotees. So Srila Prabhupada asked this, why does Krishna come into the material world? So different devotees gave different answers. But Dinanath Prabhu gave the answer that he comes to give pleasure to his devotees. Very close, yeah? And Srila Prabhupada said, yes, that was the right answer. Because the other purposes, means the other answers that have been given, could be fulfilled by other agents. But only Krishna could come and satisfy his pure devotees. So after Dinanath gave that answer, Srila Prabhupada said, now you are liberated. Because the Bhagavat Gita says, Janma karma chame divyam evam yo veti tattvataha. That one who knows about the appearance and activities of Krishna in truth, chaktva dehang panara janma naiti mameti sarjana, never has to take birth again, but he goes back home, back to Krishna. This is how simple Krishna consciousness is. Prabhupada asked, why does Krishna come to the material world? Dinanath Prabhu answered, to give pleasure to his devotees. Srila Prabhupada said, yes. And you understand properly why Krishna comes? The transcendental purpose of his appearance? So you are liberated. Haribol. And now we've all heard it, and if we accept it and understand it, we're all liberated. Question? Okay. To give pleasure to his devotees. Now Krishna, when he's here, he does other things also. And all of his activities are divine, transcendental. He has no contamination with the material modes or the material nature, material energy. Everything he does is transcendental. And he fulfills various purposes. But all of those other things can be done by his expansions, incarnations, empowered persons. But loving relations with his devotees, that only Krishna does. So that's the specialty, the special purpose of Krishna's appearance. And it reminds me of what Srila Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami says in the 3rd chapter of the Adi Leela of Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita. So here he's begins to explain some of the reasons for Lord Chaitanya's appearance. And he gets into the details of what Krishna was thinking and why Krishna decided to come again as Lord Chaitanya. Because Lord Chaitanya is Krishna. Lord Nityananda is Balaram. They're not expansions. Lord Chaitanya is Krishna in the mood of Srimati Radharani. Srila Krishnadas Kaviraj now begins to explain his 4th verse of his introduction. He says, may that Lord who is known as the son of Srimati Shachi Devi be transcendently situated in the innermost core of your heart. Resplendent with the radiance of molten gold, he has descended in the age of Kali by his causeless mercy to bestow what no incarnation has ever offered before. Why? Because only Krishna does it. The most elevated mellow of devotional service, the mellow of conjugal love. He then goes on to explain, Lord Krishna, the son of the king of Vraj, is the supreme Lord. He eternally enjoys transcendental pastimes in his eternal abode, Goloka, which includes Vrajadam. Vrajadam means Vrindavan, Gokula. Once in a day of Brahma, he descends to this world to manifest his transcendental pastimes. We know that there are 4 ages, namely Satya, Treta, Dwapara and Kali. These 4 together comprise 1 Divya Yuga. 71 Divya, same thing we've just spoken about. 71 Divya Yugas constitute 1 Manvantara. There are 14 Manvantaras in a day of Manu. At the end of the Dwapara Yuga, of the 28th Divya Yuga, Lord Krishna appears on earth with the full paraphernalia of his eternal Vrajadham. When Krishna comes, he brings with him his spiritual abode and fully manifests it. The Acharyas describe when Goloka is manifest here, it's called Gokula, but there's no difference between Goloka and Gokula. It is the same. Servitude, which is dasya, friendship, sakya, parental affection, vatsalya, and conjugal love, shringara, are the four transcendental mellows. By the devotees who cherish these four mellows, Lord Krishna is subdued. Absorbed in such transcendental love, Lord Krishna enjoys in Vraj and his devoted servants, with his devoted servants, friends, parents, and conjugal lovers. Lord Krishna enjoys his transcendental pastimes, means when he manifests here, as long as he wishes, and then he disappears. Of course, even though vision of his pastimes in this world ends, his pastimes continue in Goloka Vrindavan. They don't end. But his manifestation of them here, that comes, that goes. After disappearing, Krishna thinks, for a long time, I have not bestowed unalloyed loving service to me upon the inhabitants of the world. Without such loving attachment, the existence of the material world is useless. Everywhere in the world, people worship me according to scriptural injunctions, but simply by following such regulative principles, one cannot attain the loving sentiments of the devotees in Vrajabhumi. Knowing my opulences, the whole world looks upon me with awe and veneration. But devotion made feeble by such reverence does not attract me. So Krishna's thinking like this. And then he decides, I shall accept the role of a devotee, and I shall teach devotional service by practicing it myself. Unless one practices devotional service himself, he cannot teach it to others. This conclusion is indeed confirmed throughout the Gita and Bhagavatam. So this is what Krishna is thinking. He says, my plenary portions can establish the principles of religion in each age. No one but me, however, Krishna thinks, can bestow the kind of loving service performed by the residents of Vraja. Therefore, in the company of my devotees, I shall appear on earth and perform various colorful pastimes. Thus, thinking, the personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna himself, descended at Nadia early in the age of Kali. So this is the reason Krishna appears, and the reason he again appears as Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And if we can understand, even if we can just accept and understand this, then the path to liberation is wide open. Of course, liberation is not our goal. Our goal is to please Krishna. Liberation can be a stepping stone towards that. However, liberation can also be a distraction from that. And we need to be careful to avoid that. The idea that I have to become free from material troubles in order to be able to serve Krishna is a misconception. It is the remnants of selfish, self-centered life. That I want to be happy, I don't want any troubles, so let the troubles be gone so I can just focus on. But the proper mood is exemplified by the preaching of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Na dhanam, na janam, na sundarim, kavitam vajagirishajam janmani. Kavitam vajagirishajam. Mama jamani jamani shree bhavatad bhakti haitaki tvai. I don't want any wealth. I don't want any followers. No beautiful women, which also means no beautiful men. All I want is your causeless devotional service, birth after birth. So inherent within there is that I don't even want liberation. Whatever situation, Krishna, you put me in, I'm completely okay with that. Just I want to be able to please you with loving devotional service. This is the mood Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. We heard he's teaching devotional service. He came, he's teaching devotion, it means he's practicing it. He's showing this is the mood of pure devotional service. The mood of pure devotional service that is practiced by the inhabitants of Vrindavan. And the acharyas in our line embody this mood. Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, wherever I take birth, please let it be, even if an insect, in a devotee's house. The other aspect of the mood of the Vrindavan devotees is Krishna's the best. He's so wonderful. It doesn't even matter if he's God or not. Most people are caught up, is there a God? Is there not a God? Establishing the supremacy of the Supreme or his existence, worshipping him because he's God. But on the topmost level of devotion, the pure love, it doesn't matter whether he's God or he's not God. He is the best person. He's so attractive, he's so wonderful. His dealings are beautiful and loving. He is perfect in every way, the most attractive person. So that is an elevated stage, but that is where we want to get to. And we begin by the study of Bhagavat Gita as heard from the lips of the pure devotees and following the teachings that come down in disciplic succession. So Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has established that if we want to be devotees, there's a number of regulations that must be adopted. And of all of them, the regulated chanting of the Hare Krishna mantra a fixed number of times each and every single day without fail is foundational. For those who are initiated, that number is 16 rounds a day. For those who are not initiated, if you can do 16, that is wonderful. If you can't, whatever you can fix as this is how many rounds of the Maha Mantra I chant daily, keep going there. And gradually, by good association, and if the desire is sincere, that number can increase. 16 is the minimum platform that's required to be initiated, to become a Vaishnava. To be a Vaishnava means to be initiated into the disciplic succession. So by following the devotees, by following the instructions, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and his devotees, by putting them in practice in our life, by hearing Krishna's instructions, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's instructions, no difference. Same person giving the same knowledge. As Krishna, he is the object of worship, saying, this is how it's done. As Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he is the object of worship, adopting the mood and role of being the worshipper and showing this is how it's done. It's a very, very wonderful example. So the more we try and hear, glorify the Supreme Personality of Godhead through the chanting of the holy names, through the hearing of the Shastra, through glorifying his devotees, the more we please the Lord. And as we please him, he gradually reveals everything to us, removes the obstacles. There's so much confusion and darkness in the world. We know there are 3 modes of material nature, but the prominent fundamental one is ignorance. We are forgetful of even who we are. We have an eternal body that we've forgotten. We have an eternal name that we've forgotten. We have an eternal service in relation to the Supreme Personality, and we've completely forgotten it. We are in a state of madness. For some time, about 6 months, I worked in a psychiatric hospital. And I met all sorts of people who didn't know who they were, who had some fanciful idea about I'm this, I'm that, I'm Jesus Christ, I'm the Pope, I'm this and the other. And everyone can understand, yes, this person is insane, because they think they're someone that they're not. We can all understand that, right? If we think we're someone that we're not, it's madness. But this is the fundamental problem that we all have in the material world. We all think we're something we're not. With the people that I saw in the psychiatric hospital, they're just everyday people who had mental health problems. But they thought that they were someone better. So, okay. But the real situation is we are eternal, full of bliss and knowledge, and we think we're something worse than that. We think we're made of matter. We think we belong in this temporary material world. And it's all complete illusion. So we've given up the highest, chasing after something that is completely foolish. So it's a very sad state of affairs. But by the mercy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead and his devotees, it can all be removed in an instant. So this is the opportunity that we have in the Krishna consciousness movement to get to the very heart of all problems. There's so many problems facing people in the world today. So many problems. Even for the little kids, they have their problems. Oh, I have the exam I have to pass. Or, oh, my holidays are ending. I have to go back to school. Is that a problem? You like going to school. Okay, well then for you it's, oh, school's ending, I have to go on holidays. In any case, there's always problems. It's inherent. That's the way the world is designed. We mistakenly have this illusion that, oh, we can make a nice situation for ourselves in the world. If I just do this or that or the other, then everything will work out nicely. But our acharyas describe there is no material solution. There's material problems, but there's only spiritual solutions. And by taking to Krishna consciousness wholeheartedly, we remove the very foundation of all material problems. Cut it off at the root. Reawaken our lost or forgotten relationship with Krishna. All things that are bad and unwholesome and inauspicious have originated because of forgetfulness of Krishna. So by this one act of surrendering to Krishna in Krishna consciousness, everything inauspicious is removed. So in the process of devotional service, it's described as like a seed has been planted in the heart and it begins to grow. And eventually it grows into a creeper that has beautiful flowers and fruits of love for Krishna. But as a small seedling first sprouts, it comes up and it opens up 2 leaves. So the seedling of bhakti in our hearts has these 2 leaves that come out. The very beginning. And it is freedom from all material distress, and the beginning of all auspiciousness. And they're just side benefits. It's not even the goal. So the very thing that people are hankering for in so many ways, by surrendering to Krishna, it automatically comes just as a side effect. So if we understand that, then we can understand how great must be the real thing then, the real goal of this Krishna consciousness. If what everyone in the world is hankering for, that is just achieved as a side effect. Freedom from all miseries, beginning of all auspiciousness, that's just a side effect. Then how good must the real goal be? Inconceivable. What time are we meant to go to? I think Arati is meant to be now, right? A chanting? Oh, japa, we chant. Okay, so I should stop now because we need to put the philosophy into practice. Some chanting and some... Actually, though, everything we do is devotional service. There's 9 items. Hearing, chanting, they're all on the same platform. And if we approach hearing the Shastra or reading the Shastra or speaking on the Shastra as this is service to Krishna, it has the same effect. Nonetheless, I have to stop so that we can do other varieties of service. Before we stop, does anyone have any questions or comments? Yes, Prabhuji.
There are different sampradayas and religions, so why are there different sampradayas and different religions?
Why are there different sampradayas and different religions? Okay. So in the Vedic tradition, there are 4 sampradayas. And there is some, slight difference in mood and so on. They're all coming from the personality of Godhead, but they come through different devotees. And in the spiritual world, it's not all one. There are varieties. So there's different varieties or moods in the spiritual world. So each different sampradaya may have some slight different mood. And that slight difference in the mood then sometimes reflects in a slight variation within the philosophy. But they're all bona fide and they're all correct. Of course, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu took something from each of the 4 and harmonized it into the perfect and most complete understanding of the Vedic scriptures, which is Achintya Bheda Abheda Tattva. That's for another class. So that's sampradayas. And by any of the 4 sampradayas, one can go back to home, back to Godhead, back to the spiritual world. Perfection. Become a pure lover of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And in fact, only in these 4 sampradayas can that be achieved. Even if we get, you don't believe that? You're like, well, that was just an accident, was it? Okay. I thought we were going to have a debate. You're like, I don't prove it. All right, I will. Only in the 4 sampradayas is the actual goal achieved. And there's Vedic statements to that effect. If we receive a mantra in any way other than in the 4 sampradayas, it has no fruit, nishpala. It won't bear fruit. So they're essential. Now, aside from that, there's man-made religion. The 4 sampradayas are not man-made. They are by God himself. Now, this doesn't mean that not every religion is on the same level. They're all directing towards the same person, but can go various degrees of the way towards him. For example, if you want to actually love somebody, you have to know about that person in detail. Who they are, what they do, what their names are, what their activities are, where they live. The more you know about them, the more you can think of them and love them. So different religious faiths have different amounts of understanding or knowledge of the Supreme Person. So those that have just a vague, impersonal, or he's a person with no face, or you can't say his name, then they're not going to get you as far in loving him as a process that gives you everything. So real religion means following the laws, the codes that are enacted by God himself. This is the version of Srimad Bhagavatam. Dharmam tu sakshat bhagavat pranitam. Real religion means following the instructions of the personality of Godhead. Now those empowered persons who have given for specific times and places in the world various religious systems, they are also authorized and bona fide. But according to time, place and circumstances, they're only giving certain amounts for what those people could understand. Now this doesn't mean that every religion is bona fide, because in this day and age, people make up religions. There is a so-called religion where the author of this religion claimed that the greatest text you could write would be one that establishes you as God. So that's not bona fide. So there are speculative, there's churches, in various countries that are atheistic. They don't believe in God, but they still call themselves a church. So not everything that calls itself a religion, or even that is accepted by people as religion, is actually a religion. But the great faiths of the world, who are established by persons who are devotees of God and empowered by him, are authorized in bringing people closer to God, closer to loving him. My father-in-law asked Srila Prabhupada, does the Pope make spiritual advancement? And Prabhupada said, yes, he's doing God's work. But the degree to which they can bring one to being a pure lover of God distinguishes the perfect from the more perfect from the most perfect. So Krishna consciousness is the most perfect because it gives us the opportunity to love and know Krishna so much that we will meet with him face to face. As you and I are talking, we will one day have that same experience face to face with Krishna. No other process is offering that. Is that okay? Anything else before we stop? Yes, Marie.
Hare Krishna Prabhu, thank you very much. Class, you said devotional service by following devotional service. You said all the miseries will be gone and all auspicious will be established.
Yes.
But whereas when we were trying to do devotional service, there will be some problems and miseries will be there. So how do you understand that?
That's a very good question. If by performance of devotional service miseries are removed, why do I still get a flat tire in my car? Or does this person still criticize me? Or I'm still getting grey hairs? Why? Because this is the material world. These things will always come up. We're not utopian that if we do this, then everyone will embrace and will sing and dance together, and the tiger and the deer will embrace each other. Yes, it can happen. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu did it. But that's very special. He is in everyone's heart, so he can make everyone do everything. He can reveal to anyone anything at any time. But we are not utopian. We don't think that material miseries will disappear. The material world is Durga. It is a prison. It is a jail. It is a place for punishment. And there will always be miseries arising from our own mind and body, miseries arising from other living beings, miseries arising from the higher authorities, the demigods and deities. They will always be there. But by the practice of Krishna consciousness, by the awakening of attachment to serving Krishna and thinking about Krishna, then one's consciousness transcends the problems that are inherent within the world. So when the tire goes flat, it doesn't bother you. When someone writes this email about you behind your back to all the people you have to deal with, it doesn't bother you. When the hairs get all grey and the tooth falls out, it doesn't bother you. Because I am experiencing the taste of Krishna consciousness, nothing else doesn't matter. Be it good, be it bad. It doesn't distract from loving Krishna. So things may still occur, will still occur, that would cause misery to other people. But the devotee's consciousness is unaffected by it, as Krishna says in the Gita, like the lotus unaffected by the water. Is that okay? But we're not utopian. We're not trying to say that the material world will become a nice place. That's not our goal. We are pessimistic towards the material world because we don't belong here. We are a fish out of water. We need to get back in the water, and that's a different place. That's the spiritual world. So the devotee has no desire for anything good or bad in the material world. He doesn't desire that I have to get out of it, but he doesn't hanker for anything in it either, because he is solely fixed on, I want to please Krishna. Wherever Krishna puts me, I'll try and please him there with whatever facilities I get. And when the consciousness is fixed on pleasing Krishna, then nothing else disturbs. So we can test in our own lives. Are we still getting disturbed by things? Or are we not getting disturbed by things? It's something practical. It's like the example in the Bhagavatam, the analogy is when you eat. No one has to tell you, okay, you're not hungry anymore. Of course, sometimes mum might say, you're not hungry anymore, stop eating. But actually, you know that I was hungry, now I'm not hungry. And then you'll know, oh, and now I'm full and I can't eat anymore. No one has to tell you. With each and every bite, hunger diminishes, satisfaction increases, and nourishment automatically comes. Similarly, by the rendering of devotional service to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, automatically one knows, oh, I'm not bothered by those things anymore. Why? Because I'm happy. My spiritual life is nourished. My consciousness has gone to another level. I'm not absorbed in what's happening in the material world around me. I'm not trying to establish myself in a specific, position or as a player in some realm in the material world. I don't have a goal of getting this thing or that thing, or avoiding this thing or that thing. So it doesn't matter what happens. Whatever the situation brings, by the divine will of Krishna, that we use for his pleasure. Yes, Puruji.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna.
For example, if I'm doing something wrong and I'm really confident that I'm not doing anything wrong and I'm in a Krishna consciousness and I think that I'm in a place and everyone is really not happy with me. So how can we identify that I'm doing right or not?
The truth of the matter is we can't identify it. And therefore we need Guru who identifies it for us. When we are conditioned, we cannot tell what is right and what is wrong. The only chance to understand what is right and what is wrong in our own activities is to hear from someone who's not conditioned. And they'll tell you, don't do that, do this. And that is Guru. And then by following Guru and Shastra and Sadhu, eventually we become purified enough that Krishna within our heart speaks to us and we hear him. In the conditioned state, it's the mind speaks to us and we think, oh, this is very nice, good idea, yes. Yes, that person said this thing about me. Oh, yes, this is what I should do. I should write an email to everybody telling them how bad they are so that then everyone knows that I'm good and they're bad. But this is just the mind. It doesn't help. So we can't tell. In the conditioned state, we can't distinguish what's the mind and what's the direction of the personality of Godhead. But Krishna kindly gives us the Guru who directly represents him, who tells us, no, don't do that. That's not required. Srila Prabhupada sometimes would use that phrase. This is not required. So Guru is essential, 100% essential. By the grace of Krishna, one gets Guru, and then by the grace of Guru, one gets Krishna.
But sometimes the Guru is not present every time with you.
So there are also Vaishnavas. Guru, Sadhu, Shastra. We can hear from scripture. And these books, this is not some dead matter. This book is alive. It is spiritual. Krishna's internal potency is present within this book. And if we have doubts, we have concerns, we have problems, these books can directly speak to us. This is the problem and this is how to fix it. Similarly, the Vaishnavas, Krishna speaks through the Vaishnavas. There was a disciple of Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada said to him, always be ready to, this directly speaks to the point that the Guru may not be around. Srila Prabhupada said to him, always be ready to hear my instruction. I can speak to you through anybody. We need to be receptive. Part of the process of surrender is becoming meek and humble. I can't do it. The material mentality is, I can do it. I'm number one. Don't you know who I am? The spiritual mentality is one of great, deep, realized humility. I am an insignificant person, full of mistakes. I can't do it. Krishna, please help me. If one is in the right mood, then instruction can come anywhere, anytime. But we need to be in the right mood to be able to receive it. And that mood is surrendered. So following the 6 items of surrender, as Srila Prabhupada outlines. Is that okay?
Yes, Lord. Thank you.
Why are we so stubborn to change?
Because we want to be God. It's that simple. That's why we came to the material world. Srila Prabhupada said in a class, 10% of the living entities come to the material world. 10%. 90% don't. You go to school. If you were in the bottom 10% of all students, is that good? No, that's not good.
We are.
Every single one of us. Bottom 10%. It should be a wake-up call for us. And yet we falsely think, I'm so good. Look at me. I can do this, I can do that. This is humility. Understand, real knowledge leads to humility. Artificial or false knowledge doesn't. It makes you proud. But real knowledge gives humility. So when we understand what is the real situation, I am eternally a servant of Krishna. And this applies to every one of us. I'm eternally a servant of Krishna. Yet I did that one thing that is the worst possible thing that anyone can ever do. I turned my back on Krishna and left him. It's the worst thing, and we've all done it. But he's so wonderful that even though we turn away, he comes with us and looks after us. That's wonderful. That's love. So if we understand these things, it's quite sobering. Maybe I'm not as good as I thought I was. Just maybe. There's a chance, right? At least a chance. Is that right? Agree?
Any more questions? Wonderful answers. Anyone? No? Any more?
Yes, we have one more here.
What are the sampradayas?
Four sampradayas is coming from Lord Brahma. Actually, they come from Krishna, but Krishna speaks to Lord Brahma. That's one. And then Lord Shiva is another. And then the four Kumaras is another. And then Lakshmi Devi is the fourth. And then there's a sampradaya acharya for each of the four sampradayas who established it very solidly in this age of Kali. Madhvacharya, Ramanujacharya, Vishnu Swami, and Nimbarkacharya. So they all appeared in South India within the last 1,000 years or so. So there's all four sampradayas are still existing. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu chose to make his divine appearance within the Madhva Sampradaya, and our Sampradaya is therefore now called the Madhva Gaudiya Sampradaya. Gaudiya Vaishnavas, followers of Lord Chaitanya. Okay? Yes. Who are the four Kumaras? You know what Kumara means? Kumara is like this boy here. He's a Kumara. Means up to the age of 5. So the four Kumaras, at the very beginning of this day of Brahma, the creation, Lord Brahma sets up the planets. Krishna creates everything, and then Lord Brahma puts it together for him as his servant. And then he's made these planets, and I have to make some bodies for people to live in them. So the first bodies that he makes are the four Kumaras. And they come out, keep hitting that. They come out, 4 little boys. And he says, now you make progeny, children to populate. And they thought about it and said, no, thank you. We don't want to make children. We want to stay as little boys forever, not get entangled in family life. So they are now billions of years old, still living, and still look like 5-year-old boys. And they are considered to be empowered incarnations. Where are they? They're on a planet known as Tapoloka, surrounded by other sages and worshipping the Supreme Personality of Godhead. They are so powerful that they once went to Vaikuntha, the spiritual world. They just went there. in their bodies. They didn't have to leave their body. And the gatekeeper stopped them and said, "Whoa, what are you doing here?" And they said, "Don't stop us." And they cursed the gatekeepers. And the gatekeepers had to leave for some time. So they're very, very powerful. Good question. Thank you. All right. Thank you very much. Shrimad Bhagavat Gita ki jai.
Jai.
Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Jai.
Gaura Premanandi.
Hare Bol. Big round of applause, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you very much. So what's the 10% that I have to do now? That's stuck down here? Huh?
I'm sorry if any of you have, like Srila Prabhupada, he was not a fallen conditioned soul. Prabhupada once recounted that when he was he traveled from Africa, he had to get a yellow fever vaccination. So his servant misplaced the vaccination card. So when he arrived, I think it was in India, he had to go into quarantine. Now we all know about this word quarantine now, but it didn't used to be as popular. So Prabhupada was in the quarantine place and he was sitting on the, I think a veranda there or something, and he said to his servant, "I never wanted to come here." And his servant thought he was talking about he didn't want to come to the quarantine place and said, "Oh, I'm sorry, Srila Prabhupada, that I lost your vaccination card." They didn't have digital certificates back then. And Prabhupada said, "No, I never wanted to come to the material world. But Krishna said to me, 'You go and you write books about me.'" And Prabhupada said, "But I don't want to fast." "I don't want to fast." And Prabhupada said, Krishna said, "I will give you my prasadam." That is the story that I have heard. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
So my point is that the 10% have to do something here, right? So now we have to do something here. So we have to chant, right? Chanting is the process. So because of COVID, we didn't have a chance to go to India to buy a lot of beads. So we have to chant with your beads, whatever beads you have, or just follow the mood of chanting, and then for about someday. You said no? Any beads?
Who has beads?
Anyone got beads? Let me have a look.
Very good, very good. If you don't have beads, do you know how to count on your fingers?
Yes, there are some here.
Are there enough for everyone?
There's quite a fair bit here.
Just in case you don't get, you can count on your fingers. If you count one mantra on each part here, that's 12 on one hand, and then you count 9 on the other. So each time you do 12, you move along here on your fingers. 12 times 9 is 108, so that's a full japamala.
We are heading out now. So thank you, His Grace Antardwipa Dasa, for such a wonderful class and wonderful answers for all our questions. Please give a big round of applause again. Hare Krishna. So please get your beads if you don't have. Please return it after when you finish. We are running short, running low. Some people have taken, we had quite a lot before, some people have taken it. Okay, so how we start, right? You can see there's the thick beads and also the smaller beads. So this is the head, right? On the head, you chant a mantra, which is to invoke the presence of the Panchatattva. So they give us the mercy and blessing first. Before we start the round, we normally start from the larger beads, the larger beads, right? Okay. So the Maha Mantra is there. It's 16 words. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So it might take about 15 minutes if we chant together. So we chant the Panchatattva, which is Jai Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadara Sivasadi Gaura Bhaktavrinda, and then Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare, Hare Krishna
Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama Hare Rama, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama Hare Rama, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama Hare Rama, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama Hare Rama, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama Hare Rama, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama Hare Rama, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama Hare Rama, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama Hare Rama, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama Hare Rama, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama Hare Rama, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama Hare Rama, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama Hare Rama, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama Hare Rama, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama Hare Rama, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama Hare Rama, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama Hare Rama, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama Hare Rama, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama Hare Rama, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama Hare Rama, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama Hare Rama, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama Hare Rama, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama Hare Rama, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama Hare Rama, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama Hare Rama, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama Hare Rama, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama Hare Rama, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama Hare Rama, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama Hare Rama, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama Hare Rama, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama Hare Rama, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama Hare Rama, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama Hare Rama, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama Hare Rama, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama Hare Rama, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Hare.
Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Siya Vaita Gadadara Sivasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna. It's nice, isn't it, to chant together? So it's you will get more and more taste as you chant every day. Like Prabhu say, if you chant a fixed rounds every day, whether if you're initiated, of course you can chant 16 rounds, but for those who are not initiated, you can chant a fixed round of 5, 6, 8, 10, or even 16 will be good. Then you will see the change, you will see the difference in your life. You'll feel much more happier. Thank you very much. So just a few announcements. First one, some of you might have received it on the email that we're having the Bhagavat Gita course. Right, it's an intro course. Those who have done it obviously knows how valuable it is. Those who haven't done it, you can participate in the course. It will answer you a lot of different questions that you will ask, like karma and destiny, and the real purpose of life, and why there's so many religions and so forth. And it start on the 17th of October. Right, those who wanted to register for this course, right, can come and see Krishna Prabhu or Rupavati Mataji, who's here outside, right, and they can register for the course. Right, and also we are coming to a very auspicious month, which is the Kartik month. It will start on the 21st of October. So we are going to houses and houses to do the Damodara lamb. So any of you can also register, right, for the offering of lamb in your house. So those who want to do it can also come and see Krishna Prabhu or Anutam, who is not here. Is Anutam here? Anutam not here. Huh? No. Anyway, Kinila. So you can see Hema Krishna Prabhu for registering. You start on the 21st, right? You can open up your house for devotee to come and do lamb offering in your house. It's very auspicious. Whatever you do during that month is 1,000 times. If you offer a lamb here, it's 1 time, but during that month, one time become 1,000 times. Alright, and also chanting. 1 round is 1,000 round. 16 round is 16,000 round. How about that? Not bad, huh? So that's where this is a very auspicious month, the Kartik month, where Krishna comes in the form of a baby, 3 years old baby. So that will be the month from 21st of October to sometime in November. I can't remember, I think 19th of November. So that month you can open up your house, you can do every day, you can bring your family, your parents, children, whoever, neighbors, all they can come to your house and do a lamb every night. And you get a lot of benefits, a lot of spiritual benefits. Okay? So, and also our next program, next Sunday Feast program is on the 24th of October. So there will be our next Sunday program. So please come again in 2 weeks' time. Right, so we're slowly getting back to the moon of Sunday Feast. Right, people should be coming soon more and more in the future, I'm sure. And of course, please bring your friends along. Any first timer here? Any first timer? Wow, thank you for coming. Thank you. Please register your email address if you want to get any email from our Ishkan Temple telling you what's going on, what's coming up, right? And you can get different information from us. Just register in the front desk. Right, you can see Sitaram Prabhu or Moida Prabhu in the front desk, and then you can register your name, and then we'll put it in our list. And also coming up in November, of course, is Govardhan. Inside the Kartik month, there's also Govardhan Puja, which is on the 6th of November. It's on a Saturday. Alright, so there'll be a big festival, a big hill will be built. There are plenty of streets. Okay? Plenty of streets. So we're going up to Aarti now. Just before we go, oh yes, I forgot. Yes, my friend just reminded me that of course today Prabhu mentioned about Bhagavat Gita. You should all get one book. If you don't have one, Bhagavat Gita as is it. But we also have a lot of spare Bhagavatam, Srimad Bhagavatam. It's not a one full set, but it's those loose one. It's selling for only $5 donation. Alright, it's not. You just buy one different canto. You can just buy one or two and go back and read. And if you like, you can buy the whole set. Okay, so it's selling out there $5 one book. Alright, very cheap. Just get one or two or three. Give it to your friends if you want to, and that will be good for you also. Okay, and we want to thank today the cooks that do the feast today. Thank you Subha Sudevi Mataji. And the team for cooking the feast today. We thank them very much. And of course, we also like to have a sponsor today. We didn't have, but please be generous during the Aarti time. That will help to cover the cost of the Prashadam. So thank you very much. It's Aarti time. Come along, stand up. And then we have now for our Aarti. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna.
Gaura Nitai, Jaya Gaura Nitai. Jaya Gaura Nitai, Gaura Nitai, Gaura Nitai, Jaya Gaura Nitai. Shiva Jaya Jaya Gaura Chande Arati Goshova. Jaya Jaya Gaura Chande Arati Goshova. Janavi Tatavane Jagamanalova. Janavi Tatavane Jagamanalova. Dakine Nita Chand Bame Gadadhara. Nikate Advaita Srini Vasa Chatradhara Vasi Achal Gaura Chan Ratna Singhasane Arati Koren Rama